Hello, welcome to The Secret Mind. I've woken up and I want to read to you. I know nobody is interested, but I've got a book to finish and I'm nearly there. So I'm going to record these chapters now. I'll take my face off because that's not adding anything to it particularly, and it's unkempt visage. But this is Every Man an Enemy. Oh, I'm still getting that wrong. 16 chapters in, I'm still getting them. Every Man an Enemy. It's a tongue twister by W. Howard Baker. So here we go. Every Man an Enemy by W. Howard Baker. Chapter 16. Blake was looking for Carla. He was looking everywhere for her. He was searching the house for her as the murderer closed in on her and tried to throw her to her death from the roof. Blake had left her at the door of her room only a short time before. He had gone in search of Inspector Trooper to tell him in confidence what he had discovered, that Carla Scott was the missing author, MacDonald Hall. He hadn't been able to find Inspector Trooper immediately. The young constable in the hall had said that the inspector was conferring with his sergeant at that moment, but that he'd tell him that Blake wished to see him. To pass the time whilst he waited, Blake had gone into the lounge and had there seen Carla's typewriter. Thinking that she wouldn't mind if he used it, he had sat down before it, fed paper into the bale, and begun to type up what he knew and what he'd so far deduced in simple note form. Then he'd stopped. A ball of crumpled paper on the edge of the hearth had caught his eye. Someone had missed the fire with it. Always inquisitive, Blake had got up, reached for it, and smoothed it out. He had read the typewritten words, "The quick brown fox jumps over the lazy dog." One of Blake's black and somewhat satanic eyebrows had quirked up at that. Who had been using this typewriter? Hadn't Harvey Innes been using it after dinner? Whoever had been using it had obviously been experiencing some trouble with sticking keys. The sentence Blake had just read was a standard performance test used by mechanics to check the alignment and imprint of every letter on the keyboard of a machine. It contained every letter of the alphabet. Shrugging, Blake had balled the paper again and tossed it back on the hearth. The machine was working perfectly now. He had begun typing again, and then something had suddenly occurred to him. He had stopped typing abruptly. "You're a fool," he told himself shortly. "You're slipping, Blake." He just realized that the carbon copy of 6 Pillows to Midnight which Carla held was the one and only indisputable proof of authorship of the novel. Other claimants might offer sworn statements, affidavits, or the testimony of friends, as Fawcett had done, or claim to be working on a sequel, as was Prout. But all of these proofs were as nothing compared to a carbon copy of 6 Pillows to Midnight. A carbon which checked out, word for word, and letter for letter, with the original in John Bovis's safe. This outweighed and outranked all the rest. Simple, obvious, and true, he thought, very true, and though he had, in a general sort of a way, been perfectly aware of this fact, what stemmed from it had only just occurred to him. And it was this. Whoever held the carbon copy had the strongest claim to have written the novel. He should have taken charge of it himself. If the murderer should know that Carla Scott had it, he'd got up quickly. He'd gone out into the hall and taken the stairs to Carla's room 2 at a time. He would find her and take charge of the carbon now. But he hadn't been able to find her. Carla Scott's room had been empty, nor when he looked for it had he been able to find the carbon copy of 6 Pillows to Midnight. Both it and Carla had vanished. Now Blake began to feel a little worried. He started to look for Carla in earnest. He hunted everywhere for her, and then another thought came to him, a thought like a thunderbolt out of the sky. He'd said to himself, if the murderer should know that Carla Scott had the carbon. But now, Blake thought that the murderer did know it. He thought that he had seen proof that the murderer knew it. The killer might be with Carla now. Where? Where could they be? He had searched all the lower rooms without result. Where could they be? It was at that moment, moving quickly towards the foot of the stairs leading up to the roof, that he heard a curse and a cry. Blake went up the stairs at a run, blaming himself. If only he had not been so blind. He raced out onto the roof just in time to hear a door slam shut at the other end of the leads. He made for it, then checked in mid-stride. Carla Scott was lying on the roof in the shelter of the low stone parapet. She was looking dazed. She was rubbing the back of her head. She tried to sit up. Got out. What happened? You tell me, Blake said. He helped her to her feet. She said, falteringly, I was standing up. I was leaning over the parapet. I wasn't doing anything, just thinking. And well, someone must have come up behind me. I heard a noise. It was a cat yowling, I think. I tried to turn round, and something hit me across the back of the head. I very nearly fell off the roof. And then nothing, Carla said weakly. Somehow I must have stopped myself falling. I just don't know. Then you arrived. Blake was frowning. The man who attacked you made off. I couldn't catch him. Who was it? Who attacked me? And why? Blake didn't answer her. Instead, he muttered, almost to himself. He must have heard me charging up the stairs. That's why he took himself off so quickly. Then, moving, he said, And you heard a cat cry out, Carla. That's what startled you. That's what warned you there was someone right behind you, right? Yes, but who was it who attacked me? Do you know? You've got to tell me. There's the cat, Blake said, pointing. There's the animal that probably saved your life. And there was Millie, Herbert Asbury's Seal Point Siamese.